video content for TikTok and Instagram. So hopefully to give you some really practical advice you can use to go away, develop your own strategy and start making traction on those platforms. For those of you that don't know the pitch, it's a nationwide competition that helps startups get investment. So if you are out there looking for seed stage investment, then do check us out. The link's obviously in the show notes. And I'm joined today by Jonathan from Reidentify, and his company helps brands, entrepreneurs create video content, and he's also built a few accounts himself as well. So thanks for joining us today, Jonathan. It would be great if you could kind of introduce yourself and what your business does.
Amazing. Thanks, Chris. Lovely introduction. And essentially who I am is Jonathan Reed. I run a podcast, or not a podcast. I do run a podcast actually, but I run a personal branding and podcasting agency for B2Bs. And that's a lot of words, but what does it actually mean? So I help B2B businesses run their podcasts, scale, automate, and launch their podcasts. And I also help the leaders inside and the founders inside of those B2B businesses with their personal brands. So the brand can grow, or the company can grow from the inside out. Rather than getting all these different ads and all this outside help, you can actually grow your company from the inside out. That's one thing that I really, really do believe in. As I said, I run a podcast as well. It's called Purpose Led. We talk about personal development and such. We're in the top 5% most shared podcast in the world. That was 2022. Hopefully we'll be there again 2023 this year. We also do events. We also have multiple pages connected to the podcast, and that was actually kind of a way that we grew the podcast in the first place too. So socials has kind of been at the forefront of a lot of things that I do. So even my business, the way that I get clients is through socials, and even talk about my business is through socials. The way we impact people is through socials with my business and the podcast too. Though we get a lot of viewers is through the socials. So it's a really fitting topic, Chris. Really, really fitting topic.
Yeah, and talk to me a bit about that philosophy. So you said about building the business from the inside out. Is that versus using kind of performance ads and things like that? Like, do you want to explain that philosophy?
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of people rely on the performance ads and PPC, all that kind of stuff. But there is a lot of value in growing organically through the business, using the people in the business, because you should always develop a brand voice. I believe you should always develop a brand voice and then get that brand voice heard from the inside out, the authentic brand voice, right? And allow people to have an opportunity to know who you are and to understand you and to build a relationship with you through the content that you create internally. So it's not always the stuff which is done externally, so all the advertisements and such, but the things that you create internally, organically. And a lot of the time, it's not even necessarily just organically. Organically or organic and paid can come hand in hand. So, for example, one of the clients that I work with, they're generating, I think it's about 10 to 20% of their leads for their SaaS and B2B through the podcast that we're running for them. And the way they do that is they actually use the clips that we create them. So that's another thing we do. We help our clients with clips. So we actually take the podcast, chop up into clips, give it to them. They use some of the clips we create for them and use it organically. And the clips that do well out of those clips, they use that as paid. So you can even use organic as paid. So there's so many different reasons why you should be building up some sort of organic strategy and building that company or building your company and growing your company from the inside out. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. So let's go right to the start of that process. You used a lovely phrase there, authentic brand voice, right? So I think a lot of founders, like, they have a real sense of like purpose. They know what the impact they want to have. They know what they want to do with their company. So if you were to talk to somebody like that, like, how would you help them kind of turn that, take those first steps into turning that into a strategy to actually create content? So I know my purpose. What do I need to do next?
Okay. Well, next you need to voice your purpose. So you need to actually tell people about it. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? And when I tell people about my company, usually, or when I come across people, I say why I started it. The reason I started my company to like helping B2Bs automate that whole process is because I once struggled with that problem. I was once at a place where I was running a marketing agency, and at the same time I was growing a podcast too. And I said, well, one of these things need to be handled because I can't grow both of them effectively at the same time. So I built some sort of a process, well, the process that we're running now, the Reidentify process, where I basically gave the footage to editors and put it out there on the platforms in an automated way. And I started selling this to people and people started liking it. And people who relate to that can connect with that story. And because they connect with that story, they're building a relationship with you, or you're building a relationship with them, meaning that they're more likely to buy off you, meaning they're more likely to listen to you and look at you as somebody that they could potentially work with, they could potentially refer to other people. Because you're being authentic, you're using your authentic story to connect with people. And whenever you're authentic, people will automatically just magnetize towards you. It's, I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to be any type of way, but I'm trying to say that this is really what I've experienced. I've just experienced people magnetizing towards me because I'm authentic in the things that I do. Like the way that I speak, the people that I speak to, what I say is very authentic. I like to be authentic. I like to be my true self because people respect that and people like that. And it's the same when it comes to a company too. People like when a company is being authentic because you can see when someone's being authentic. You can hear it. You can feel it when someone's being authentic. And if these companies are just saying stuff just to say stuff, people see right through that. So that is one thing that really does separate a lot of these companies that are out there right now, their authenticity. Because everyone's got a purpose, everyone's got a reason why they started their business, right? But are you going to be authentic to that reason? Because when you are, you can actually connect to the right audience.
So give us an example of how that might play out. So take something like Re-Identify and say, what is an example social clip that you would draw from that journey, from that purpose?
I remember one time I was speaking about my business on the podcast that I run, Purpose Led, and I was talking about the kind of hardships of growing a business, because it's not easy to grow a business. Anyone who's grown a business or is working at a high level in a business or even any level in a business will understand that it's not easy. And I was talking about the difficulties and the losses that I may have taken and the wins that I may have won too. And people connected with that. Other people with businesses connected with that. And off the back of that, I was recommended to other people who needed my services because I was able to develop a connection with people. I was being my authentic self. And even aside from that too, even outside of the business stuff, I remember, what was I talking about? Actually, it wasn't even anything in particular that I was talking about with my friend that I run the podcast with. But just through us uploading consistently about mindset, about personal development and authentic content, us being authentically ourselves, we received a message in our Instagram DMs. It was a young man. He was talking. What did he say? He said, had it not been for you guys consistently uploading over all of these, I think it was over all of these months, you've been following us for a few months, I may not have been here. Like I may not have been around, like I might not be here right now, kind of thing. So to be able to hear that and to be able to understand that you're having that kind of an impact on someone's life, it's really big. It's really big, and it really touches you. It really touched me anyway. To know that me being my authentic self and my friend being his authentic self was able to even potentially save a life. So I know that's not necessarily business related, but it's definitely life related and people related, and I love people.
That's incredible. That's so reaffirming what you're doing and the mission of Purpose Led. And so when you're thinking about drawing that authenticity out and like taking, you're dealing with a lot of B2B brands. I've seen the different accounts you've worked on, and then thinking more broadly, like the accounts I love do sometimes have a kind of very visual identity, like they've kind of come up with some formats or some colors or some locations or some presentation styles. Like, have you got any tips there about like how to sort of develop those ideas and kind of give your clips some kind of, consistent look and feel?
Yeah, I would say have a couple of different formats that you frequent. So let's say, for example, or frequently use. Let's say, for example, there might be a talking head format that you frequently use. So it might just be you literally like I am right now, and like Chris is literally just in front of the camera, just looking at the camera and talking about a specific topic, right? That might be one type of format that you use. Another type of format might be you literally just sharing your thoughts on your phone. You're walking down the street and you're sharing your thoughts. Those videos do very well because they're authentic. You're literally just a human living human life, sharing your whatever your thought is at that current moment in time. I've seen a lot of those videos do very well. That might be your second format. Your third format might be a clip from a podcast that you recorded. But having those consistent formats always helps, because then you don't really have to think too much about, what should I record next? Where should I record next? You already have your 3 formats. And then you can have multiple locations that you have in mind as well. So as I said, you could be walking somewhere. Maybe you can go for a loop of the park, your local park near you, and then share your park thoughts. That could be a series, park thought series. It could be in your office, like myself. It could be in anywhere else. It could be in a cafe. So thoughts at the cafe, or the cafe content, something like that. I always think it's always best, or I always recommend that it's best to have some sort of repeatable framework, And I noticed you said something about colors, right, too, Chris?
Yeah.
And colors, just correlate whatever your brand colors are, try and include them in the video in some way. And even if you don't, it's all right. You can still add in elements which actually reflect those brand colors too. But that does add a little bit of complexity to your videos. And what do I mean by elements? I mean, let's say, for example, you were talking about a family, right? There might be a picture that pops up on screen of a family, but then that might have a border. Let's say, for example, your main color is orange. That might have an orange border. So you're able to actually carry your consistent theme from your branding over to your social content just by doing that one simple thing. And one thing I always do recommend to people is subtitling their videos. I don't think we've got into the kind of tip section for creating content bit yet, or what people are kind of fumbling on. But this is one thing that I always say to people, to use subtitles on your videos. Please, I reiterate it. I've reiterated it so many times to so many different people because it's so important. Use subtitles on your videos. I think it's like 60 to 70% of videos that people are consuming on social media aren't even being consumed with the sound on, which was a crazy stat for me to hear. But once I heard it, I definitely started using a lot more subtitles. So please do use subtitles. And with those subtitles, you can still instill your brand colors into those subtitles too. So every time there's an important word that comes up, the rest of the subtitles could be white, but that important word can be the orange color, which may be your main color again. So that's how you can incorporate color into your social content.
I love that. You mentioned it having 3 common formats, and that creates a nice framework for you. Because I think sometimes when you've got to put a lot of content together, it can feel a bit overwhelming, particularly when you're also trying to do sales, customer inquiries and so on. Yep. So are there any other tips you give around kind of just making your life easier and getting the content recorded that you need?
Yes, definitely. Creating some sort of long form content. Of course, I'm pretty biased because that's my business. That's what we do. Creating long form content, breaking it down to short form content for our clients and allowing them to post it into whatever and even put paid spend behind it too. But that is one way which makes what you're doing so much easier, because then you only have to create one piece of content, and then you could even get a team member to break that down into shorter pieces of content. So let's say, for example, you record an hour long video of you talking to yourself, if you like talking to yourself, or talking to someone else, maybe a co-worker, or talking to a potential guest, even if it's a podcast. It doesn't have to be a podcast, just something that's recorded that you can chop down into shorter form clips. Because let's say, for example, you're a business owner, or let's say, for example, you are an entrepreneur, there are a lot of things going through your head at one time. So you trying to sit down and record one specific video may not be the easiest thing to do, but you sitting down for a longer period of time and then just being free to talk to somebody or to yourself could be a lot more freeing. I find it a lot more freeing. And you just say, you have all of this stuff up there, but sometimes it's a bit difficult to get it out there and get it onto the camera. So you giving yourself that time and that space will allow you to think freely and allow you to express yourself properly. And when you can express yourself properly, that can be cut down into clips in future or in post when the video is done recorded. So that's one thing I'd say, or one little hack. I'd say just create that long form content in order for it to be broken down into short form content later on down the line.
Yeah, and what would you expect to get out of, say, like a half an hour podcast that we record today? Would you kind of hope to get sort of 2-3 clips out of it? Like, what's the normal kind of ratio?
I'd say you could get about 6 to 7 clips. You could even get about 10, to be honest, because it depends how you structure the podcast. So let's say, for example, it's a podcast where you're asking really specific questions like, give us 5 tips on how to improve your social media strategy. Then I'll give you 5 tips, and those 5 tips would be 5 clips. And then you might do another one at the end saying, I'll give us 5 more tips on how to pick the right host for our podcast or something like that. And those will be another 5 clips. So it just depends on how you structure your podcast, because you can structure it in a way where you will most certainly get X amount of clips, and then anything else said in between can also be used as clips. So it's really up to you how many clips that you get out of that long form content.
We're just going to take a really quick break from this episode of the Seed Stage podcast to tell you about Currys Business. They're proudly partnering with The Pitch this year and help make the competition free for all the wonderful founders that take part. If you are looking for equipment for your startup, we recommend checking them out. It could be anything from your laptop, your basics, through to equipment to record better short form video for social.
You've given us a couple of gems now, but I feel like I have to put you on the spot. Like, can you give us 3 tips for making recording content easier?
Okay, 3 tips for recording content easier. Tip number 1, have some sort of a setup. What do I mean by a setup? Have the equipment there ready for you to shoot, if possible. I know that everyone's situation is different, but if possible, have some sort of setup. Right now, I've got my camera here. I'm looking into my camera. I can't see Chris right now, but I can see my camera. My camera set up there. I've got a light here, a light there. I've got this mic, which I use on a regular basis. So whenever I need to record content, all I do is switch on my camera and then just start recording, because it's that easy. You want to take away as many barriers to the production of content as possible. That's tip number 1. So having some sort of setup so it's easier. Tip number 2 would be to, whenever you have a content, this is one thing that I do a lot. Whenever you have a content idea, have some sort of a document where you keep content ideas. So whenever you have a content idea, you can just drop it into that document instead of thinking, I should make a video about that. Yeah, I should do that. And then 20 minutes later, you're thinking about the Subway that you want to order and you've completely forgotten what the content was that you wanted to record. So have something on your phone or on your laptop that you can, or have a page on your phone or on your laptop, a notes page that you can write down all of your content, because when it comes time to make content, all you have to do is just look through that list. Just have to look through the content list and say, oh, I will talk about that today. Cool. And then tomorrow we'll probably talk about that thing I thought of last Wednesday. So that's another thing I'd say. Another thing I'd say as well is record with people or record with someone else. A lot of the time it's much easier to bounce off of someone rather than you just thinking to yourself, it's just you and the camera. So it's a lot easier to bounce off someone else sometimes. So that's what I'd say for the 3 tips.
Polished. I love it. And run me through your equipment setup then. So you mentioned this idea that it's really handy to have somewhere you can go and it's dedicated and you can use it whenever you want. So what kind of equipment are you using there? And if you can, like, how much did the setup cost?
Sure. So this mic was £260, I want to say. Yeah, about £260. Reason I got it was because it has a USB attachment at the bottom, so like a micro USB, and it also so I can plug it into my computer, and it also has an auxiliary, it's an XLR input as well, which you can plug into like a soundboard or something like that. So if I want to upgrade my setup and then get additional microphones, I can literally get this I can't remember what they're called, but yeah, we'll just call it a soundboard for now. And I could stick the XLR cable, or take the XLR cable from here and then plug it into the soundboard, and then get another mic which is like this, and then plug that into the soundboard too. So it just gives you versatility. This mic stand, I mean, I could send it to Chris, and maybe Chris could put it in the description or something like that underneath this video. But I think it's called, it's the Rode something. I don't know. I can't remember the name of it, but this was about just over £100. I always go by the saying of buy cheap, buy twice. So that's why I spent a little bit more than I wanted to on both of these things, because I knew that they were good quality items, and they are good quality items. Also, I have an LED panel from Amazon, which is by Neewer, Neewer. And on top of that, I have like the softbox. So just a light with the softbox. All you need is a light with the softbox. And here, if I move this around, you might be able to see the light change a little bit. This is a USB little ring light I used to have, and I just stuck it onto my desk, and I use it as a filler light on the other side of my face. I used to be into videography and photography back in the day, so I know about lighting and such. And that's been really good, just to fill in that side of my face. So just use what you have, really. Use what you have. And that up there, that light was there was 3, it came in a set of 3, and that was about maybe £300. So maybe just £100 for that, or probably a little bit less. And this ring light was about £20. And these are a very, very big addition to the setup. These are blackout blinds. So these were about maybe £25 off of Amazon, but they've made the biggest difference, because now it looks like it's just a normal, just plain curtains. But my other curtains before, you can see the light coming through, and it was just a mess. It was just a mess. So I would definitely recommend those for help if you want to kind of control the lighting situation in your room. So now whenever I record content, it will always look the same. The lighting will always look the same because I have those blackout blinds. But yeah, that is my setup. And AirPod Pros too, which are about £200, I think, 250.
Awesome. And I know you're recording outside as well, right? I mean, you mentioned there about recording when you're walking, recording from a
Hmm.
cafe. I think you even did a clip where you were sort of in Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
Now, like, what equipment are you using when you're out and about? Like, is it as simple as just having a phone on a tripod? Like, what do you normally take with you?
Usually, where is it? Well, it's not around right now, but my phone. I'll literally just use my phone, and I try to go to places which are a little bit quieter. But what we actually have coming and is on the way is another Rode item. I think it's called the Rode Mic Pro or the Rode Mic Go Pros 2, something like that. And all that is just a mic that you can attach to your t-shirt or your jacket or any piece of clothing, and you're able to get really, really good audio from wherever you are, and it's really super, super portable. So we're going to be getting those next. But as of right now, all we've used so far is just our phones. We've literally just used our phones wherever we are. We just take out our phones and use those because it's authenticity again. People appreciate that you're just putting content out there, and I always do say content over quality, but I still like quality. And that's the whole quote: content over quality, but I still like quality. So don't forget quality, but always remember content. Content is the most important thing. I've seen countless amounts of videos which aren't shot in the proper way, aren't shot on the proper device, aren't put in the proper places or on the proper platforms, on the right platforms, but they've still performed really, really well because the content inside of them have been amazing or has been amazing. So always think about content. Equipment is really good and it's really cool to upgrade your equipment, but content is the most important thing because if you're saying things that aren't valuable, then ultimately you're just making something that's not valuable just look nice. That's like taking a stone and like polishing it. Like it's really only going to be a stone. But if you take a diamond and you have it in a little bit of dirt, people can still tell that it's a diamond. So yeah.
And how often do you think like people need to post? I mean, when you've seen accounts get traction, are they posting every day? Like, is there any kind of like advice there?
I would say to post every day. Definitely to post every day. Absolute minimum 3 to 4 times a week. If you want to see a good amount of growth. But yeah, posting every day is where it's at. That's where I see accounts start to gain traction. Start to gain traction.
Yeah. And I think you learn a lot that way, right? Because you are just practicing more, you're trying more stuff out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it's just reps. It's just like the gym. The more reps you do, the more you're going to understand what's working and what's not, because you're going to be able to see the growth in the different areas of your body.
It's a great metaphor there. And
Thank you.
in terms of like, yeah. And is there anything else you'd say there about like the length of time, a business that's just starting out might take to get that traction? So say they do commit to it, they've got
Hmm.
they're being their authentic selves, they're getting their content out there every day. Like, is there a point when you start to see an uptick?
It's different for everyone. For some people, for example, for us, the first video that we put onto TikTok got 40K. No, was it the second one? The first one or the second one? The first or the second video we put onto TikTok got about 40K views. And that was just off the bat. I looked at my friend and I said, is this how TikTok works? Does everyone does it work like this for everyone? But apparently not, because the next videos that we did got about maybe like 300 views max over like the next couple of weeks. And then we got a video with like 5K, then it went to like 500 views max. Then we got a video with 100K and then kind of went up from there. But we still get those videos which get to a max, maybe 1,000 views, maybe 500 views, 250 views. But it really just depends, number one, on the content, number two, on the brand, and number three, on the platform that you're on. Because on TikTok, it has the ability to just blow you up instantly. Literally blow you up instantly. Like one of my friends, she got to, I think it's about 4K followers in about maybe a month or so. And then that's on a new account, and briefly on her other accounts, I think she's got to a couple 100,000 in like maybe, I think it was 6 months to a year or something like that. So, but then for us, we've got to, we're in the 5 figure range, like low 5 figures, but that's taken us over a couple of years, like, across our platforms. So it really depends on the platforms that you're on, the content that you're posting, and yeah, the platforms that you're on, the content that you're posting. And I can't remember what the third thing I said was, but that's important too. Um, but yeah, that's what I'd say it comes down to: the platform you're on and the content you're posting, and the third thing.
That is, yeah, one of my favorite things about TikTok so far is that you can pop even with your first video, with your second
Yeah.
video, whatever. Whereas, building like SEO, for example, on a site, Google won't trust you for a long time. You have to post and post and post. And then it's like they flick a switch, like, we trust you now. And I've
That's
found a
it.
similar thing on YouTube. Like, you just have to run the
Mm,
accounts for a while
Mhm.
they won't let you pop on the first couple of clips. They have to almost like trust you that you're going to stick around and do more and more. Whereas TikTok just don't seem to care. It's like
Mhm.
if it's good, they'll plug it, and it can really get good numbers from the outset.
I mean, sometimes I look at it like the lottery. So just the more lottery tickets you get, the more likely you are to win the lottery. So the more videos you post, the more chance you're going to get some sort of viral video or a little bit more attention on your videos as a whole. And I also believe in compounding, like the law of compounding. So the more that you do, the more likely that you will grow, or you will grow. So even if your video is getting 250 views, or like the videos from last week, the 7 videos that you posted, they all got 250 views. That's quite. I'm not doing the maths right now, but that's cool. That's quite a few views. That's quite a few. That's quite a few people that have seen what you're doing, and they're seeing you be consistent. And I think there was even one video that we were really surprised. I think it only got maybe 250 views, but we were literally just talking about an event that we had, and that drove quite a few sales, quite a few event sales. And we were like, but this video didn't even get that many views. How's it driving sales? It's just the people that are consistently watching us watch that video, so they knew that we had an event, so they bought the tickets. So don't be discouraged when you see, well, this is a message for the people listening. Don't be discouraged when you don't see the views straight away. It's not always how many people are watching these videos. It's always who is watching these videos. Are the right people watching these videos? Because the right people may be watching, but you'll never know until they say, and you'll never know until you know, I guess. So you may never know. You actually may never know if the right people are watching your videos. But that's one thing to think about, because, and also put into perspective, 250 people is a lot of people. Like, if you really think about it, if 250 people were in the room where you are right now, you would probably be pretty packed, and there will be a lot of people in that room. So don't be discouraged when you see those quote unquote smaller views, because you see other people getting millions. That's one thing I'd say.
Yeah, and you could be on another platform like Twitter getting 16 views for as much effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think as well, like you mentioned 2 rules there, kind of like the more lottery tickets you buy, and the idea that your energy, your effort compounds. Like that.
Yeah.
That's advice for social, but that's also advice for business, right?
Absolutely.
Like the more sales you try to make, the more lottery tickets you buy on that front, the more likely you are to win, and your effort does compound. So I love that philosophy.
We're just going to take a really quick break from this episode of the Seed Stage podcast to tell you about Carrie's business. They're proudly partnering with The Pitch this year and help make the competition free for all the wonderful founders that take part. If you are looking for equipment for your startup, we recommend checking them out. It could be anything from your laptop, your basics, through to equipment to record better short form video for social. If you are listening to the episode today because you're excited about short form social, they've actually helped us create an entire course that will give you everything you need to put together your ideas, plan shooting, understand what equipment you need, and create a process to make your life as easy as possible. If you are excited to learn more about short form social, the link to the course is in the show notes.
So look, we'll just do one more question before we wrap it up, and that's kind of like how we'll just talk quickly about how founders can get help with this stuff, right? So you obviously offer that as a service. A lot of the people we're talking about are quite early stage, so I'm not necessarily saying just use Reidentify, but like, what can they plug in to help them with this process? Okay. I guess what can they outsource is the thing, because when you're looking around all the stuff you have to do in a business, you might sit down, you've got your video set up, you've got that hour-long tape, whatever. It's like, what help can you get around this process?
I would recommend getting some sort of short-form content editor. So I would recommend going onto Upwork or Fiverr, or a platform like that, and saying, or typing in doing some sort of a job post for a short form content editor, and getting them to edit your videos for however much they're going to charge you. And what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to take your videos, subtitle them, and make them watchable. Not watchable, but more of a high retention type of video. So they'll make the cuts cleaner, or they'll even put in cuts where you didn't have cuts before. They'll introduce subtitles, they'll introduce pictures and everything else that you tell them to as well. So that's one thing that you can outsource, which is a short form content editor. And you could even potentially outsource the content creation as well. So you can actually get somebody to record this content. You just tell them what to speak about, and they speak about it, which of course will cost you a little bit more. And that's kind of like UGC, so user-generated content from other people outside of yourself. But that is another way to outsource this stuff. However, I'm kind of thinking out loud here. However, it's not like if you're just starting out, I'd recommend it being the people who are running the business, actually creating the content, because you're actually able to develop that connection with your audience. And then maybe at a later stage, you bring in other people, those the UGC people, user generated content, for them to make content around the subject that you're talking about and around your company and the things that you offer. So yeah, I would definitely say one thing that you can 100% automate is the short form content editing. That is one thing you definitely automate.
Brilliant. And that last point as well, I guess, is it's the authenticity thing again, right? Like that you want that to come across, and that actually, if you outsource content creation, it is hard to like convey your brand values, your purpose, and get people to really capture that in a way that represents you.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'd leave with people as well is to document the journey. Please document the journey. So document what you're doing, what you're going through right now, because the people who are winning in content are documenting what they're doing. So it's document over create. Gary Vee talks about this a lot. Document, don't create. Focus on the documentation, and the creation will work itself out, right? So yeah, you literally just document whatever you're doing. So your journey, what you're dealing with, what your mission is, the problems that you're facing, the wins that you're experiencing, client wins, personal wins. Put that on the socials. People will connect to it. They'll see you're a real human being, and they'll love you for it.
Perfect. That's a lovely note to end on. So thanks so much for joining us today. If people want to follow you, if they want to learn more about what you do, like where's the best place to go? LinkedIn
is the best place to go. I'm going to be starting up on YouTube soon, so that will be Jonathan Reed. Just type in Jonathan Reed, re-identify, and you'll find me. Same thing on LinkedIn, Jonathan Reed, JONATHAN REID, and type in my business after that, just so you make sure that you find me. REIDENTIFY, Jonathan Reed, re-identify. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and on LinkedIn, and I'll definitely respond. So yeah.
Wicked. Thanks again for the time there, Jonathan. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Amazing. Thank you for having me, Chris. It was amazing.